Alright, so here we are working with exercise 4. This is drawing 3, and this exercise deals with creating and editing paths. So we're going to go more into detail specifically with freeform paths. So let's kind of backtrack a little bit and go over the anatomy of a vector path. So some of this might have been explained already, but I just wanted to go into more detail about working with freeform paths. So I have right here just a simple path that I've drawn. And what I've done is kind of highlighted the major parts of this path. So we know that each one of these points is called an anchor point, and the parts between anchor points are called segments. I wanted to get more into detail with these control handles. So these things that control the curve of the segment. So what I'm doing now is I'm using the white arrow. So to edit your paths, always use your white arrow. I've clicked on this anchor point, and what I'm doing is I'm clicking on this handle, okay, and my smart guides tell me that I'm on the handle point, and I'm just kind of analyzing what that is doing to the path as I move it up and down. I'd say the best way to understand what's going on with this control handle is that it's like a magnet for the path segment, so that as I move the handle up, you can see that the path wants to follow that control handle, and as I go down, they start to get closer and closer, and it will get to the point where they intersect. My smart guides are telling me that. And then I can actually go the other way as well. And as I go out farther, you can kind of see that the middle of that segment is still trying to pull its way, still magnetized to the point of that handle. And then as I pull back in, it wants to come closer to that handle. So that's a good way of kind of looking at these. Go ahead and just move around these control handles and just get a good gauge on what they are doing with this path segment. The other thing I wanted to point out is that when you click on a point, it should fill in with the highlight color, and then it's hard to notice, but these other ones are actually filled with white and they're hollow, so they're not activated. So just know when you see a filled in anchor, that means that it is selected. Okay, so one more thing I wanted to go over is that when I select that anchor point as well, notice what happens up here in the control panel area. So I don't have any points selected right now, but as I select this anchor point, you can see that my control panel has changed, and now I have different options of what I can do with this control handle, and we're going to go over those a little bit more in detail. So I always want to be looking to the control panel after I make a selection on either a point or a set of points as to what I can do just from the control panel. And finally, along with vector paths are corners. Anytime that you do create a point with two segments, you have essentially created a corner. The most fundamental corner is the corner with no control handles. So this is your sharp edge corner, and so I'll go ahead and make one of those right now, and I'll use my white arrow to kind of punctuate that point. We can see here that has no control handles, and I don't have any real adjustment over the shape of the segments other than their length. However, there are other corners that we can make when working with paths. So I'm going to make a smooth point right now, and you can just watch as I do this. So when you make a smooth point, it's smooth because as this path comes across the anchor, you can see it kind of follows the same trajectory. It's not making any kind of sharp turns. And the other way to think about a smooth point is the control handles are symmetrical in that they act kind of like seesaws. So when this side goes down, the other side of the control handle is going up. When I move this control handle this way, that control handle goes the opposite way. The other point that we're going to encounter is the cusp point. I'll go ahead and do that right now. I'll start with a regular point, and then what I do is I hover right on that anchor, and I hold down on the Alt key, and I pull out a new control handle. And now you can see that I actually changed the trajectory of that path. Now when I click on this with the white arrow tool, now you can see that this segment, the control handle is moving independently of the other segment. So this is called a cusp point. So you can see this side too moves independently of the bottom portion. Alright, so let's go into more detail with editing these paths